Hello, this is Dr. Grande. Today I will analyze the case of Emmanuel Aranda. First, I'll look at the background of this case, move to the timeline of the crime, then offer my analysis. Emmanuel Deshawn Aranda was born on August 23, 1994, in Chicago, Illinois. He lived with his mother, Becky, and an older sister. At some point, he moved to Minneapolis, Minnesota, where he was homeless much of the time. In August 2014, Emmanuel visited a restaurant called Golden Nugget Pancake House. When an employee tried to call the police about his bill, Emmanuel beat the worker with a telephone. He then pulled a knife on a bystander who attempted to intervene to help the worker. Emmanuel was arrested and charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. He pleaded guilty, but only received 18 months of probation. In July 2015, Emmanuel visited the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. This 5.6 million square foot shopping mall is the largest in the United States. After making his way to an upper level, he threw objects over the railing and destroyed merchandise at a beauty display below. Emmanuel was arrested on 3 misdemeanor charges: property damage, disorderly conduct, and interfering with a peace officer. Less than 4 months later, he returned to the mall, even though he had been banned. Emmanuel approached a woman who was waiting outside a restaurant and asked her to buy something for him. The woman responded by laughing and indicated that she would not comply. When the woman entered the restaurant and sat at a table, Emmanuel followed her and sat at a nearby table. He continued asking her to buy something for him or to give him money. This prompted restaurant staff to intervene. Emmanuel reacted by throwing a glass of water and a glass of tea at the woman. Apparently, he modeled his courtship technique after a malfunctioning beverage dispenser. Later, he was arrested and convicted of 5th-degree assault, trespass, and interfering with a police officer. Emmanuel received a sentence of 30 days in a workhouse and was ordered to receive a mental health evaluation. The court also ordered him not to return to the Mall of America, although this ban was not permanent. In August 2015, Emmanuel paid a visit to the Sumner Library in Minneapolis and smashed 5 computers. When the police arrived, he told them that he broke the computers after reading something on Facebook and becoming angry. Maybe Emmanuel took the term breaking news literally. He also told the police that he had anger issues, but it did not happen all the time. Emmanuel was arrested and banned from the library for 1 year. During the next month, September 2015, he returned to the library. There, Emmanuel harassed a female employee by asking her on a date. From her car in the parking lot, the woman called the police. Emmanuel told officers that he was stalking the woman and he knew where she lived. His case was handled through mental health court. He was released from custody 6 months later and placed on probation. In addition to these offenses, Emmanuel had other negative contacts with law enforcement. For example, he had a felony conviction for first-degree damage to property. A warrant was issued for his arrest for a 2017 assault case. Emmanuel had been arrested 6 times for riding public transport without paying, and in the state of Illinois, he had been arrested for assault, theft, and property damage. Now moving to the timeline of the crime. On April 12, 2019, at about 10:17 a.m., the police received a call about a child being thrown off a 3rd-floor balcony at the Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. When they arrived at the scene, they found 5-year-old Landon Hoffman severely injured on the 1st floor near the Michael Kors store. He had head trauma and multiple bone fractures, including in his arms and legs. He was transported to Children's Hospital in Minneapolis, where he was listed in critical condition. Here is what the police found during the course of their investigation. Emmanuel Aranda had been in the mall that day. He had been banned from the mall on prior occasions, as I mentioned, but the ban was not in place at this time. He was technically allowed to be there. Emmanuel was captured on video surveillance on the 3rd floor outside the Rainforest Cafe. He approached the balcony several times. Landon Hoffman was at the mall that day with his mother, Carrie. They had met up with one of Landon's friends and the friend's mother to visit the Crayola Experience in the mall. This is a family attraction designed to provide hours of hands-on creative play for children. The four individuals had been on the third floor of the mall, outside the Rainforest Cafe, when Emmanuel approached Landon and his friend and whispered to them. They were not familiar with him. He was a stranger. At first, Carrie thought that he might be an employee. She asked him if they needed to move. Emmanuel responded no. He was smiling during this interaction. Without any warning, Emmanuel grabbed Landon, picked him up, and threw him off the third-floor balcony. Carrie and other witnesses watched in horror as Landon fell 39 feet to the first floor. Emmanuel ran from the scene. One of the witnesses tried to stop him, but Emmanuel pushed him against a wall and continued to run. The police were able to find Emmanuel not long after the attack. He was at the Mall of America transit station, waiting to depart on the light rail train. When officers placed him under arrest, Emmanuel remained calm and did not ask them any questions. He did not appear to be surprised, almost like he knew why he was being arrested. Several witnesses identified Emmanuel as the person who threw Landon off the balcony. The police interviewed Emmanuel. Here's what he told them. He admitted that he was the perpetrator who attacked Landon. One day earlier, on April 11, 2019, Emmanuel developed a plan to kill somebody at the Mall of America. He had stopped by the mall looking for a victim, but it did not work out. He left without perpetrating an attack and returned to the mall on April 12 to complete his mission. His original plan was to kill an adult because he believed that adults often stood near the balcony, but he selected the boy instead. Emmanuel indicated that he had been visiting the Mall of America for several years. He made repeated efforts to talk to women in the mall, but they all rejected him. These rejections caused him to be aggressive and to lash out. He mentioned how he had been thrown out of the mall after the incident where he threw the water and the tea at a woman in a restaurant. Referring to the attack on Landon, Emmanuel told the police that he was aware that his behavior was wrong. 3 days after the attack, on April 15, 2019, Emmanuel was charged with attempted murder in the first degree, premeditated. About 1 month later, on May 14, 2019, he pleaded guilty. On June 3 of that same year, Emmanuel was sentenced to 19 years in prison, which was the maximum. His anticipated release date is December 10, 2031, when he will be 37 years old. The victim in this case, Landon Hoffman, required multiple surgeries and had his spleen removed. He spent 2 weeks in critical condition, but amazingly, he recovered. He was released from the hospital in August 2019, 4 months after the attack. Landon was able to return to school for the first day of kindergarten in the fall of 2019. He has no memory of the balcony throwing incident. Landon's family sued the Mall of America in 2021. In 2022, the case settled, but the terms were not disclosed. Now moving to my analysis. Here are my thoughts on a few areas that stood out to me in this case. Item number 1. Emmanuel offered no defense to his crime. He pleaded guilty to the charge he was facing. He did not introduce any of his mental health history. He made no effort whatsoever to get his sentence reduced. Some people wonder if he did this because he had remorse, but at his sentencing, he offered no apology. Sometimes individuals with a history of severe mental illness do not help themselves in court because they are upset about being characterized as mentally ill. There is no way to know if that's what happened here, but it is a possibility. This brings me to item number 2. Emmanuel's mother, Becky, spoke to the media about her son's mental health history. Here is a summary of what she said. Much of this is paraphrased. Emmanuel struggled with mental illness from the age of 3. As a child, he liked to be alone. He would not interact with other children his age. Becky believed that her son did not cope well with the pressure of being in school. His teachers became concerned by his tendency to isolate. Emmanuel was placed in special education, where he stayed for the remainder of his time in school. Becky was told that he had a learning disability, but no specifics were provided. Her son was not a troublemaker in school. Becky took Emmanuel to mental health clinicians, who diagnosed him with several different disorders over the years, including schizophrenia, major depressive disorder, autism spectrum disorder, and ADHD. His mental health symptoms would flare up out of nowhere. In 2014, which is the year Emmanuel was charged with aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, his condition became drastically worse. He was homeless on occasion, would disappear for long periods of time, and had trouble keeping jobs. A few days before the attack on Landon, Emmanuel allegedly showed up at his sister's house and punched her. His sister described him like a zombie who did not have a soul. Item number 3. What do I think happened in this case? This is just a theory, my opinion. Emmanuel Aranda was impulsive, antagonistic, aggressive, and homicidal. It's not clear to what degree mental health symptoms caused him to be dangerous. Maybe they contributed significantly to his behavior. It's also possible that he simply chose to commit crimes. According to Emmanuel, he became frustrated by being repeatedly rejected by women. This is why he tried to kill Landon. He planned his crime in advance and carried it out. Emmanuel's mother, Becky, indicated she was shocked by the attempted murder and believed that her son would never do something like that. When looking at his history, I don't think his behavior should have been that surprising. To the contrary, it actually seemed like Emmanuel was working up to an attempted murder. He had even thrown objects off a balcony at the Mall of America before, almost like he was practicing. Some people have argued that this case is really about mental health, and Emmanuel does not belong in prison. They believe that his mental health needs were never adequately addressed. If this is true, it introduces a frightening prospect. Emmanuel will be released from prison when he is 37 years old. If there are still serious mental health concerns, society should be worried. People should probably be worried even if the mental health concerns are properly addressed, because Emmanuel could still represent a threat. Anyone capable of randomly targeting a child and throwing them off a balcony is too dangerous to be released into the public. In this case, the mental health system may have failed Emmanuel, but the criminal justice system failed society. Those are my thoughts on the case of Emmanuel Aranda. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you soon.